and we'll let's see how we'll do this. We'll maybe we can maybe we could begin with the parsha and then go over to other stuff that if time permitting, maybe just so we get such going. So we're on one level of Facebook, but then we have to do another level. Level meaning the multi Sachen. Okay, we're on. Okay. Welcome everyone in Facebook land.
So Baruch, just a quick question before we really get started. So we were talking about all the smoke and the Anan HaKavod, lahavdil. I mean, the smoke that we're experiencing at the moment in the New York area. But you mentioned Anan HaKavod in the middle of the parsha. But, the beginning of the parsha, we talk about the menorah and how the light should be directed all toward the center. Is there a way, is there any mention anywhere, any of the midrashim or anything else, of the actual smoke from the oil? Usually those things are pretty smoky. Did it contribute to the Anan HaKavod? Was it directed also toward the center as the light was? Or was there any mention at all of smoke?
I don't recall there any mention of smoke. Only of the light that would go out through the windows that were made for the light, especially angled to get wider on its way out. Also what to do with the leftover wicks, the burnt parts, which is dishun hamener, to clean up all the wick parts, but not if there being any smoke per se. If, let's say, what would be this? There's two forms of the smoke. The smoke would be either as it is burning, then it may produce some smoke. The other is once that moment when it extinguishes, then there could be like some smoke puff. I'm not sure if there was any. Maybe part of the miracle was that there was no smoke, but I don't recall there being any connection of the smoke of the menorah per se and the smoke outdoors.
Most probably not. I was just wondering, since we were talking about the conditions we're breathing at the moment.
Exactly, and I mean, and there anyways, right? They did not hang out in the Kodesh or the Heichal chamber of the Mishkan or the Beit HaMikdash. They just went in to do what they had to and then left.
Right, but it was covered over.
It was covered over. Right. So the Mishkan, right. So in the Mishkan it was covered, and in the Beit HaMikdash there was a special window. So I don't know. So not that I know of. And again, the cloud outdoors enveloped. We know that it was like a cube, meaning there was on the ground to smoothen out as they were walking, almost like those elevator moving, walking, not escalators, whatever it's called, moving walkways, possibly by something like that. And then there were the clouds on all four sides and above them like a roof. And then there was also the cloud in front of this moving cube or squared cloud surrounding. So as we were saying right before we came on, that the connection of all the smoke and of the Quebec fires that are enveloping New York, connection to our parsha is because our parsha Ba'aleischa speaks in middle. It speaks about the clouds of glory and of fire. That was the signal for the Jewish people to travel, when to stop. Maybe it would be worthwhile just to see it, because this is all in our minds and in our nostrils. just to see how it goes into vivid depiction. So it is chapter 9. I'm going to share it on the screen. Hang on. Select chapter 9. All right, here we are. Where are we? Oopsie. Un momento. Okay. Share screen. Yay. All right. Okay. So here, verse 15, chapter 9. When they would put up the Mishkan, Kisa ha'ananas Mishkan, the cloud will cover the Mishkan. The Erev Yala Mishkan Kamari Eish ad Baker. And at night, it would be on the Mishkan tabernacle like appearance of fire till the morning. Can ye atomit? So it was forever. Anan yichasenu. The cloud, that's that day, it was like cloud. Umara Eish Laila. At night, it was like fire. So when the cloud would rise, remember this word again, taken, or it says here in English, taken up, would lift up from covering the Mishkan, then they knew that's time for the people, the Israelites, to travel. When the cloud that was leading them, directing them through the desert stopped, then they knew that's where they should encamp again. This is all by Hashem's direction. Whenever the cloud dwelled, here's the word again, Yishkan, like Shechina or Veshachanta B'Seichon, then they knew to rest. Even if it took many days, I think the longest time they stopped was like 12 years. It was maybe Kadesh Barnea of the 42 travels. I think. Okay. And then it goes on. And there were some times that the cloud would just stop for a couple days, so a few days on Michigan, but still they followed it. So it wasn't that every rest stop was for designated time. It was all dependent on the clouds. Even if it was like just covering just from night to the morning. And if the rally rose in the morning, they knew to go. That's verse 21. A day or a month or several days, you guys are all dependent on the. And you see, there's this repetition in the verses, that it's all dependent on the right. And repeats this refrain multiple times, and to protect yes, and Rashi says on one of the verses, on one of the Pi Hashem, you saw that, as I said before, that the column of smoke would fold over the encampment of Yehuda like a wall, and then they would blow the shofar up, so this is the connection of this to what it says thereafter, the next chapter 10, the whole very famous Vahi ben Sayha'are. So first, the next chapter speaks all about the trumpets. They make two trumpets of silver. There's a great Torah of the Maggid about this. Basically, to travel or to gather all the people, you blew both the two shofars. To gather just the princes in the sea, you blew one shofar only. And you blew, and as it says, Kia, Teruah, Tkiya. And that's it. So once the clouds started to lift, then they would take out these silver trumpets and start blowing. Then they start traveling east. Right, and they blew it twice. One for those in the front, and to start moving those for those in the back, or the west. And then it goes on also to blow during war, to blow these trumpets, and also to blow these trumpets on the holidays. And this is the famous Simchas. And as the song goes, Uveyan simchaschem uvemayadechem Roshechem Uveyan simchaschem uvemayadechem Roshechem Uskatem b'chatzois rois Aloi seichem nazifei shalmechem Uskatem b'chatzois rois Aloi seichem nazifei shalmechem Vehayu lachem lezikaron Meifnei Hashem Elokeichem Hayu lachem lezikaron Meifnei Hashem Elokeichem Ani Hashem Elokeichem V'yasluchaschem u'yadechem. This is what we would sing at the end of Musaf of Rosh Hashanah. So it's a Chabad tune, and would be sung to these words, which means during your holidays and Rosh Chodesh, you should blow with these great silver horns. And it says on the all burnt offerings, and then on the offerings of it's called the peace offerings. The difference of the all burnt offerings and peace offering, all burnt offerings, is no one eats them. It's all given over to above. The peace offerings were almost like a lahavdil, a barbecue, which was made, and then it was eaten by those who brought it, and also the kohanim. So what do these two sacrifices represent? And it's specifically in this order, that there are things that we do that we have to totally give ourselves over to above, to the divine. That's first and foremost. Once we do that type of offering, sacrifice, and then we could go on and do the way of sacrifice of also having for self-benefit, even physically, even in our tummies. All right, so that's a very sweet cash Torah, as they call it. Okay, then it goes on further about the what's the word? Not the coordination, sort of coordinate. Yeah, the order of how they would travel, which tribes, how, and that done was the last one. They would gather all whatever everyone else dropped in the desert, as known. They would pick it all up spiritually. They would even pick up all the remnants of things that people spiritually weren't able to work out. Then it goes into that Yisro, Moshe's father-in-law, wanted to leave, and etc. That's just a few verses. And then it goes back to about the cloud. It was on them, and then they travel. And then it goes by Vayhi Saharon, Vayayim Moshe Kuma Hashem Yifutzu Eivacha Yenusim Sanacha Mipanecha. Right? That when the Aaron traveled, that means after the clouds lifted, then Moshe said, "Stand up, and may all the enemies scatter, and all those that oppose us flee from you." Right? And then they would travel. So this was when the clouds lifted. And then when the clouds stopped and started covering them again, then they would say, Shuva Hashem, return Hashem Yuvais, Alfim Manash Yisrael, and to the myriads of the thousands of Israel. And so and before and after each of these sayings, Vayhi ben Sora and Shuva Hashem, that's when they would also blow the trumpets. Okay? What and so this is and this is what it's telling us, that each travel of our lives that we take is there's sometimes that there's certain travels we need to take, whatever to accomplish spiritually is a 1-day project. Other times it could be like a 12-year project. But each one has its own beginning, middle, and end, and protection of the clouds, and making that presence through the trumpet blowing I'm sorry. I think Kadesh Barnea, which was the one that they rested most, was, I think, it was 19 years, not 12 years. Okay. Which is almost half of the whole time of the 40 years. It was all based on Al Pi Hashem, as was the base of God. So that is, so with this, that is the connection of the Anan, the clouds, and the travel itinerary in the desert throughout the 40 years. So just so you know, with us too here in New York area, there's been two waves. There was the clouds of Tuesday went over and then semi-dissipated. Then Wednesday, early afternoon, began a second and left. And we don't know if there'll be another blob of smog. So maybe this is a great lesson for us too. The only difference is that the clouds in the desert that covered the Israelites were not hazardous. It did not affect the air quality. In fact, it was protective and it was healthy. So, so may our Ashan turn into Anan. May the fiery, toxic smoke turn into healthy, protective clouds. So that it was Anan actually means more clouds, not smoke. Ashan is the smoke. By the way, you were asking about what about smoke in the Holy Holies. There was a bit. That was on the small altar, the Mizbeach HaKtorah, Mizbeach HaZahav, they burnt incense. So there was smoke going on next to the menorah, between the menorah and the shulchan, and the table of the 12 loaves, right? So there is something to be said about smoke. Smoke is also, and especially incense smoke, is what comes deepest into through inhaling to our lungs, and it's which is part of our part of the very state of life force, and our neshama comes from the same word neshima, soul and breathing. So
I would presume it was also connected to the reach nichach.
Right, exactly, and to the reich nichach and reach. Right, very good. The scent itself of being pleasant. So may we just have an awareness now, a consciousness of that the worlds that are exposed to this unhealthy smoke, that be protected with the good smoke of our parsha. L'chaim, l'chaim.
L'chaim l'bracha.
And maybe a good thing is if anyone has any good aromas and essential oils, to inhale those, to take it, and certainly wear a N95 mask if you do need to go outside. I will tell you another connection of the smoke and lifting of the smoke, and the name of our parsha is, as we saw, I'm going to screen share again, that it said the term is ulefi olois, right? When the anan was lifted, rose from the oil, then they knew the signal to travel. Olois, lifting. What is the name of our parsha? Right, alotcha. When you will, right. Which is, let's go there actually, to the beginning of our parsha.
By the way, just
yes.
while you're looking for that, you mentioned the essential oils. For those who have cats, essential oils, not such a great idea.
Really? Why?
It can interfere with their various systems, and sometimes, depending on the oil, it can be not terribly toxic, but somewhat toxic.
Got it.
So
Okay,
you have to
thank
be
you.
careful if you have cats with essential oils.
Right. I would say if someone has certain lung illnesses, even if diffusion, as oils through a diffuser actually may not be healthy. Just so you know. Okay, thank you for that. So here's the beginning of our parsha. God tells Moshe, saying, "Tell Aaron that when you, Aaron, will." Here literally means the actual meaning means when you, Aaron, will light the candles which are facing menorah, then they should to light up the seven the lights, the seven flames, right? Because the menorah has seven branches. But the word for lighting the menorah is not bahadlikcha tasamer. It's when you will light, like we say in Hanukkah, but it says bahalotcha, and you will elevate the candles, right? So there's something interesting going on here, right? I mean, you could say,
just to point out, we talked last week about the name of the parsha, which is Naso, lifting up of the heads of the people.
Very good.
It's the same concept.
Exactly. You're reading mamish my head, so to speak.
Oh,
we're lifting each other's head. No, absolutely not, Jonathan. It actually is. I have such joy and kvel when someone like really is on the same train. You know what I mean? It's like we're great passengers. We're on the same track, literally. That's exactly something that I was going through my mind this afternoon, thinking about it. We have the two.
This week, talking about trains on the same track is also not such a great metaphor.
Right. Like in India, right? Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Certainly being lifted up to the same consciousness. How about that? So really, thank you. And while we're at it, Naso, by the way, when we were going through the different definitions, and it'll tie in a little bit somehow also what we'll speak this week. When we went through the different definitions of the root word of Naso, or Yisa, Tisa, or Sisa, Shemokech Leshav, and all that, the one that we did forget about is semi-forgot, which we at least didn't mention, was the word Nasi. Nasi is the leader or the prince, the head of the Jewish people, right? Nasi libnei Yisrael, and so on. That and the reason for that is, let me just go out of here temporarily from the screen share, is because, like they say, a leader is the head and shoulders above the people, so to speak. Like they say with Shaul, King Saul, literally, Mashiach Le'olamai, in general, right? So that's another thing. Let's stop. In Kabbalistic books, it says Nun Nasi, Nun Shin Yud Aleph is an acronym for Nitzutzoi Shel Yaakov Avinu, a spark of Yaakov, our forefather. Yaakov was was like the culmination of the three patriarchs being on a high level. Also, we know there's a term, Nasi Hu Akol, the Rashi brings it down, I think in a couple of parshas from it, that the Nasi is everything, that all the people, and Hakol Hu Nasi, all the people are included in the Nasi, in the lifted, just like the head includes, is the foremost in a way, even includes the whole body in a way. It's the control, right? Our brains, is the control of the whole body. Whereas we were learning last week about Adam Kadmon, that everything begins with the so-called Godhead. From that, everything unfolds. So too, the leader is like the head of the people. Like it says also, the word Rebbe is also acronym for Rosh B'nai Yisrael, the head of all the people. So there's the Nasi in a way that's the head. There's also the king who's the heart of the people, Leiv Malachim, right? So there's those two anatomical metaphors, but primarily the head. And that's why also Nasa et Rosh fits well, because it's saying that for a leader is the one who is the quote unquote head of the people, especially Moshe in our term. And therefore he's called Nasi. And like it says later in our parsha, when the people were complaining that they want more meat, Moshe says it calls the people the feet. It's almost like Moshe is the head and the people are the feet. And like it's brought down in Chassidus, that it's not that yes, Moshe is the head, but in order for the head to move and to get from point A to point B, it needs the feet. So in a way, ironically, the head, the leader, is dependent on the people a certain way, the feet. Just like we know, a king ain't melech b'layach. There's no king without a people. So and that's why, and like in a way, ironically, wouldn't say that the leader needs the people more than the people need the leader, but there's certainly there's a mutual need here almost, which also explains why later in our parsha Moshe is lamenting so much. Being that we're doing a little bit more abbreviated tonight, I hope you don't mind if we just like sort of jump back and forth in our parsha, as Rashi even says in our parsha early on when it speaks about the Pesach Sheni, which is not parsha. It really happened earlier, but ein mukta b'mucha b'Torah. Torah does not follow a chronological timeline. It's almost like a postmodern piece of narrative work. There is the beginning could be in the middle, then the end could be in the beginning. You know what I mean? Things like that. So in our part, in our parsha, it's very interesting. If you look generally, the difference. Hey, Ellie, what's up? Good to see you.
Hey, good to kind of see you.
By the way, before I do go plug it in with the parsha, just on this idea that the leader, the head of the Rebbe is a Nasi, just to leave, this is a story, growing up in Lubavitch, I remember hearing this when I was young, which was that there was a chassid, I think it was Rabbi Weinberg, that had something urgent to give to the Rebbe. So he slipped his letter or note under the door, assuming that one of the Rebbe's secretaries will pick it up and deliver it to the Rebbe. It turned out, he found out the Rebbe himself bent down to pick it up. So he wrote to the Rebbe apologizing. He made the Rebbe bend to pick up his note, his paper from the ground. The Rebbe wrote back, "Don't worry. That's my job. My job as a Nasi is to lift up." It's the word Nasi. Pick up whatever it is, right? That's we are mamish lifted up in the presence of true greatness, true leadership. And that explains why in our parsha Moshe laments so bad. He almost has like this leadership existential crisis when it comes to the meat. Like they say here, right? Like we say, when the people start saying, where's the beef? They have the beautiful man, and really, they could have a great time. They have all, endless, more than Baskin's Robbins, the amount of flavors they could get out of it. It wasn't good enough. They wanted the real thing, right? They didn't want any beyond meat. They wanted the meat itself. No impossible meat. They wanted geschechted, right? So what happens? Let's find it here. What is it? Is it, yes, okay. Yeah, we're going to share the screen because we love looking at the parsha itself, right? Who's going to give this? These people start screaming the asafsuf, the mixed multitude, the Erev Rav, or they call people. We remember all the great juicy fish and cucumbers and melons and everything that we ate, the real McCoy. Now you're just giving us this miracle bread, this manna bread, right? Like there's that company that makes manna bread. We don't want that. We want things. So what happens? Moshe goes. Moshe is like, Moshe turns like really gloomy, and he tells Hashem, "Lama heresa la'avdacha? Why have you done so bad, done so bad? Lama le'matzah menacha? Lasem es mas cholam? Why, Hashem, did you put this weight on me? Because the people have already complained multiple times until now. Now this again." But for some reason here, Moshe has the most meltdown. Like in other times, he sort of dealt with it. But here he's going off like, Anechi Harisi. As calling, did I create these people? Did I give them birth? Like Simon likes to say, are these my children for me to carry like a mother, the newborn? How do I have meat to give to the people? They should come to me complaining and crying to know to eat it. I can't carry the burden of these people all by myself anyway, for all their complaints and their lack of I want to say gratitude. Their whole almost rebellion. And if you do want to do, if this is what you put me up for, as to be their leader, I'd rather you kill me. Yeah, but you shouldn't see my negativity. What does this remind you of? Of another person, a leader, a prophet also complained that it's the kill me. For me, it reminds me of Yonah, right at the end. But there, ironically, it's because the people do tshuva and listen to Hashem, and Yonah's complaining, "I can't take it anymore." All right, but here Moshe is like really going off, and only then Hashem says, "Okay, Moshe, you know what? We'll select 70 of elders, and they will be designated. I will impart some of my spirit on them, and they will help you take care of the situation, to lead the people with the meat and all this." So the question is like, why now? What's the big thing? Why? Here's the verse I was saying before in Moshe, that Moshe says the 600,000 feet of the people that are between there. Here he says openly that the people are viewed like his feet. And it goes on about coming. And again, here it mentions again the cloud, which is again the cloud. It represents the Nana Kavod, like the presence of the Shekhinah. Okay, so, and in general, if you see that, like in general, in the book of Shmos, Moshe seems to be more of the steadfast, more of certitude, more of standing up to the issues, even if the people are complaining, so to speak. But whereas in general, in this Chumash of Bamidbar, and particularly in our Parsha, you see throughout this, in other Parshas of Bamidbar too, here and there, Moshe is like having issues with actually taking care of the people or leading them. So like, what's going on here? So I heard from Rabbi Dr. Lord Jonathan Sachs, Allah Shalom, has a beautiful vart based on the works of a professor from Harvard, I think his name Professor Chayes or so, that in leadership there's two types of leadership. When a leader is to direct and to make change with his people or followers, there's two ways of doing it. There's technical leadership and there's adaptive leadership. Technical leadership is, let's say the people have a problem, issue, so the leader comes and fixes the problem, whatever, let's say, right? And but it's still the people are dependent on the leader. It's not that the people themselves have really drastically changed. They're more recipients of the good or the benefits that this leader or whoever the specialist is to provide for them, and solves the problem and brings things back to order. But the people are more or less the same. So that's technical. The technical aspects of the issues have been resolved. And then there's adaptive leadership. And that is when the leader not only helps the people, but he helps the people help themselves, to transform the people in a way that they can ironically not be dependent on the leader, and be able to take in and be able actually to pick up certain skills thereof, and be able to really manifest and change from within, not from the top, bottom, and even positive imposition, whatever benefits from above, but rather that the leader assists the people to find change from within themselves to resolve the issues, whatever the given issue. So, and when the Jewish people were leaving right away at the beginning from Egypt, they were at the first phase that it was about. They just they were just fresh slaves, and just getting over that, and they were still had a mentality of being under a master's domain and rule, and being told what to do or not to. So they were still in that mindset. So therefore, Moshe filled in that role, helping them out, doing it. However, it came to a point when the people themselves need to grow and mature and learn how they can stand on their own feet. So I say 2 feet, but it's called on their own 600,000 feet. The pasuk says 600,000. Actually, if it was 600,000 people, it should be 1,200,000 feet. Okay. Or 600,000 pairs of feet. Okay. And come from within. So that is the point that here in Bamidbar, especially in this our parsha, Moshe was realized that like it's now time for the people to the more advanced, the real steadfast way that of leadership. Not that the people just remain dependent on him, but like all good parents that who teach and support their children growing up to the point where their children can become independent of them. And that ironically is the great success of directing, of being a parent, and in our scenario, being a good leader. In other words, basically, as we were saying, not just that the leader himself is lifted up, but to lift the people themselves up to a higher level. So they themselves become, even they can lead themselves. Back to Lubavitch, remember, it's a known, more than one person from outside Lubavitch has said this, but I heard this from Joseph Telushkin, and also Lord Rabbi Sachs, who also said this, that other Jewish leaders had followers, made great students and great followers. But Lubavitch Rebbe was a leader who made many other great leaders. That was the idea of the Shlichus network and all that, for example. And that shows, in a way, ironically, the greatest quality of a leader. Regardless of what you think about Chabad and all that, but at least to recognize these certain qualities that the Rebbe did possess and dispatch to his followers. So that is mamish why at our point and that's why Moshe Rabbeinu now is complaining. He doesn't understand. He thought he was investing so much in the people to already become grown-ups and be able to take care of themselves. But here they are again complaining, right? He already gave it that. Where earlier on when they're complaining, he got the mun going. And here they're complaining weiter further on. So this was the great command. And if that is so, then Moshe had a legitimate complaint. If that is so, then it questioned Moshe's the essence, existentially, his role as being the leader of the people. If just like a parent who has grown up still dependent on them, children still dependent on his questions their very identity as parents, right? So that is why Moshe is saying, if I am the head, if I am the one who is supposed to be Nasser, I should make them. Why are they still not grown up? Right. Welcome, Rachel. Great to see you here. So yeah. And it only came through great lessons that the people, but ultimately, again, it's in some sense the people themselves have to come to the realization themselves. And sometimes it takes more than just being there as a good leader, but you have to do that. There needs to be some shake-up even amongst the people to realize that. And another aspect was precisely because, in a way, as great as Moshe was, there was still a disconnect with the people. He wasn't fully on the same level of the people. I mean, for all the greatest and positive reasons. He was way more ascetic, right? As we know from the end of our parsha, with the whole story of Miriam and Zipporah and Aaron speaking about Moshe, than not being with his wife Zipporah, right? Because Moshe was basically living a celibate life for a long time, because he was on a higher level. The people were celibate only for the 3 days before the giving of the Torah. Moshe, being on that high level, like he never came down from the mountain, even when he did come down from the mountain. So he was on a higher level. Similarly, right? I mean, according to Kabbalah, he was known as Chachma Vatzilus, the highest level of the Bia of Vatzilus, the highest world. Also, at the end of our parsha, says Moshe was an Anav Mikalada. He was right. He was the most humble of all people, which is like almost the opposite of the nature of 99.9% of all humans that have always some ego. And here we're saying he was the most quote unquote humble, with all the meanings of that, which if we have time we'll go into. So he was on a whole other level, which then also explains why, when the people did complain that they wanted to meet, he couldn't even relate to them. It's like telling someone who's been a vegan his whole life, or her whole life, that now go make a whole go make rib steak barbecue for your guests. Like, there's no common ground here to even begin this whole asada, as they call it in Argentina, right? Because it's not in their existence at all. Moshe was like that. He was on a higher level. He was able to help them transmit the man, lechem min hashamayim, heavenly bread from heaven. Things have to do with spiritual realms. When it came to the real physicality, things are physical, especially red meat, or meat, or the foul meat, the slug. Well, that wasn't his department. That's because he was on such a higher spiritual level. So therefore, it was only by having a team of intermediaries, the 70 elders, that Moshe was able to connect with the common people and even their needs, even the physical needs of all the red meat eaters of the people, and take it there. And that's another lesson of the leader, for the leader. The leader is not to be too aloof. And as great as the leader is, and as charismatic, profound, and even as being the transmitter of the Torah itself, right? It's like this is the time, these days that we're in are the 40 days and 40 nights, and Moshe is still up on the mountain. Does not eat, does not drink, on that high spiritual plane, but still needs to still come down the mountain and communicate with the people. Which is why there are people who say, for example, again, I don't know why I'm using Lubavitcher Rebbe so much tonight, but I grew up with him, so this is the number one example I have of leadership spiritually on the spiritual plane. So I mean, as great and as profound as Lubavitcher Rebbe was, this great in deepest esoteric teachings and Talmudic expositions, and his genius in all different realms. But what really, in a way, that most emphasized, pronounced what kind of leader he was that he would walk in and out of 770 and he would give coins to children to give charity, or he would stand Sundays in his down to almost 90 years old, giving out for hours upon hours, dollar bills for tzedakah to people to give, and other things, very physical, very down to earth, smile to children, be very involved, the yechidus, in his private audience with people, speak with people about their business affairs, about their health, very down to earth physical things, not just great lofty concepts. There's a saying of one of the early great Chabad Chasidim, who they call in Lubavitch, he was a half-a Rebbe. His name was Reb Hillel Paritcher. So he would read. So when he would teach Tanya, great work about Shnizan Yadid, Tanya Chabad, which addresses a lot about what is the nature of a tzad, of a wicked person, intermediary person, and a tzaddik, right? Rasha beni tzaddik. So he would go like this. So what is a Rasha? Is okay, just on the negative side. Say, what is a Beinoni, the intermediate person? He's a person that is in the limited realm. He's gvul. He's in the limited realm. What is a tzaddik? Righteous person. He's someone who is bli gvul, who's in the infinite, the realm of infinity, right? Very lofty, beyond any of the limitation of the world. Like totally just. He would say, then he would pause and he would go, yes, and if so, what is a Rebbe? And he would answer, a Rebbe is the bli gvul in gvul. Is that infinite realm that manifests herself in the physical, into the finite realm. Bringing the two together, the bli gvul, the infinite with the finite. And that is what, again, like we said before, Reish B'nai Yisrael, that's the acronym for Rebbe, the head being not just the head that stays above clouds, Naseh Reish, in a way, like we were saying, but more that it lifts up the people, even the people that are on the foot level, like we said, to become heads themselves. Before we continue, incidentally, I just want to apologize somewhat to iPhone if I was a bit sarcastic earlier. I meant to know nothing personal. I was just trying to be somewhat humorous and all that, and I deeply apologize, and I hope you understand, and I'll be more careful and not to say anything, even when I think it's humorous on my end. If it could be misunderstood or just to be taken wrong the way I don't intend it to be. Okay? So again, sorry. Okay. So, and that also maybe, and we could connect with, by the way, welcome, who just tuned in, Reb Tzvi. Oh, I got it, iPhone. Okay. Nothing. I suppose your phone is sensitive. It's the one that's sensitive. Okay. Steve, welcome. Danny, welcome. Thank you. And
I've been watching on Facebook for a while.
Oh, great. Thank you. So you're in the flow with us. Okay. So maybe based on what Jonathan pointed out, that last week is already speaking about Naso, and our parsha is Baalotcha. They're both this idea of elevating, going from bottom up, right? But maybe this is the difference that we're talking about. And maybe last week's parsha, Nasa Es Rosh, is speaking about the head itself going up higher. You hear? I see that meaning, almost like saying, because over there it's also speaking about people that are more on a loftier level, or even elitists. It's the Levites, the Gershon, Klas Merari, the ones that are carrying the holy artifacts of Mishkan. So for them, they could get higher and higher as being leaders. Like we're saying, a tzaddik is the one who goes up to the infinite realm. But what about lifting the people to get higher? You see, that's true, the great leadership. Not just the leader herself getting themselves higher, but bringing the people up to their level, or lifting as much as they're picking up, bringing the people up to. And that is our parsha, okay? And that is the beginning of our parsha. God is telling Moshe to tell Aaron, who are the candles? What are the candles? Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. The flames, the candles of the divine candles are the souls of the humans, the people. The people are the flames. They're each of the candles. There were 7 branches of the menorah. This represents the variety, the 7 types of people we have. What do we mean? We're just coming from Sphira. Sphira, what do we go through? 7 times 7. That there's 7 Sphirot, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus. And it's not just, yes, we each manifest all 7 in us, but even so, some of us are more by nature Chesed. Some of us are more by nature Gvura or Tiferet, and on and on. We could even have identities. Oh, this is a Chesed type person. This is a Netzach type person, right? You know, there's like the Enneagram. There's like the 9 personalities of different ways, if you're aware of it. Well, we have in Judaism and Kabbalah, Chassidus, we have the 7 archetypes of these 7 spheres. It could go even more, maybe up to 10 spheres, but primarily on an emotional level, certainly the 7 sphere. So so that is represented by all the 7 candelabra, the 7 branches of the menorah. So to light, the Aaron is the leader, so to speak. He's the Kohen. He's the one that lights the 7 variety of 7 candles, so that they should lift themselves up. Like Rashi says, why do we use the word ahalosa, to lift up, and not just to light? The term is shetehei shal heves oila me'ala, that the flame should go up by itself. Meaning, the most literal meaning is sometimes you could light a candle and it'll start sputtering, flickering, won't really go work on it. It's burn up, find its steadiness to really rise. And whereas it's saying that Aaron should light the menorah in such a way that till it's a good flame and it's able to just rise itself. But the deeper meaning here is exactly what we were talking just before about the leadership qualities of a true leader, and as it relates to Moshe, that what it is that the true leader is the one that could light the other up, so that other one is self-empowered to lift themselves up. You understand? Is that until it appears as if that person is lighting her or himself, coming up, rising by me'ala, by itself. Right? Again, another vignette little story with Lubavitch Rebbe. Again, this is the prime example I have of leadership. This is also when I heard when I was young, that once there was someone, I think in the early years, in the early 50s, there were groups of students that would come to the Lubavitch Rebbe and for a private audience in a group, and then they would ask questions. Rebbe. And actually, the one who organized the very first groups, in the very first years Rebbe was Rebbe, in 1951, 52, 53, was Shlomo Karbach, by the way. And he had an open door, and he was able to arrange it. So this is the way I heard that. One of these private audiences, a student asked the Rebbe, right, Lubavitch Rebbe, what is your job description? What is your real job as a Rebbe? What do you really do? So the Rebbe paused for a moment, and he said, "You see this light? It was like this, like not want to say chandelier, but I'm like a like candelabra type of looking electric lighting fixture over in the middle of the room overhead." He said, "You see these lights here? They're burning. They're right. The bulbs are lit, right? And how are they lit? Because there's wiring going into that through the walls, and it's going to the switch that's near the door over there." He pointed at his office. He says, "Now, how did the light go on? Someone put on the switch." He says, "What if the lights are off? And if someone's in the room, doesn't know where the switch is? So you need someone to help the person direct them to the place on the wall where the switch is, so the person himself or herself can turn on the switch for themselves." And that's what the Rebbe said, that is the role of a Rebbe, to help the other person in the dark to find the switch to turn on the light. Now, if you notice in this description that the Rebbe gave, the Rebbe didn't say my job, or the job of a Rebbe is that if it's dark in the room, that I go on and turn on the switch. He didn't say. He said, my job is to show the other person where they themselves can put on the switch. You see? Again, a true leader is the one that shows empowerment to the other, to bring up the best of the dormant abilities that the person themselves have, and bring out the best. And it's a win-win situation. In addition to that, then the leader doesn't have to do everything for everyone else. But no, it's helping the other person shine themselves. And additionally, the person is way more positively invested and feels better about the work. When someone does something on their own, rather than just being given and gifted, when it's by their own, they value it so much more. Like the Talmud, Gemara says, one would rather have a tenth of something that they worked for themselves than 10 times that much just given to them for free. When you put in the effort work, you feel joy, you earned it, it's so much. Right, the opposite of bread is shame, as Mr. iPhone says. Right. So that's again, right? Yeah.
Lachma, what? Something?
Nama de chesufa.
Nama de chesufa.
Right. Also, the word chesufa is yearning too. So it's interesting. It's the word chesufa is used, but that's another discussion. So in a way, it's very interesting what we're saying here. Because we just mentioned before that later in the Parsha, Moshe had a bit of a quote unquote, for lack of better term, that nothing. So to put Moshe down about, he had a bit of a leadership meltdown, right? Because he couldn't relate to the people. He wasn't able to bring out the best in the people. Whereas his brother Aaron, who is the Kohen Gadol, high priest, was able to. That's the whole story here of the Menorah. Was able to bring out, or was instructed to bring out the best qualities of the other person. Why was that? Because as great as Moshe was, he still did not, as we said before, didn't fully relate to the people in the way that Aaron did. As we know, based on the Mishnah in Avot, it says that beef and the students of Aaron, Oyev Shalom, Vereidev Shalom. Oyev is the breeze and commentary, right? Right, love peace, pursue peace, chase peace. Love all beings, not even human, all creatures, even people of the lowest realm, and bring them close to Torah. It's brought down and praised that Aaron would even come up with different tactics to bring people together. He would even say white lies from if two people were arguing. He would tell really the other party likes you. I don't know why you're fighting it. And go to the other one and say so too, until they get them together to work out. And in fact, he was so much so of a peacemaker and a person of love and kindness that is why he sort of semi-failed with the golden calf that we're going to, which in the yearly time Jewish timeline is something in like 2 weeks or so away, right? Shiva Asar B'Tammuz. More like 3 weeks away, at least. Yeah. More than that. Which is golden calf. Aaron was trying to make peace amongst the people with the golden calf, trying to stall them and tell him, no worries, Moshe's coming. But right, he was almost too much chesed with the people. And that was because he was able to, even though the Kohen, the high priest, is someone who we usually typify as being, separate of the people, the loftiest of all, but still, actually, the reason why he was selected to be a Kohen Gadol, to most represent the people in the holy service, was because he had the human touch, even the most common individual. And that's why Dafka Aaron was able to not just ignite, to lead the others, but to turn on the light bulb, so to speak, the flames of others till they shine by themselves. Okay? And it gets even deeper than that. And that is, it's almost going to, in a way, what I'm about to say is it's going to almost refute what just the premise that we were saying, but it's to make an even deeper point. And that is, actually, according to halacha, Aaron, the high priest, didn't have to light the menorah. The truth is, according to halacha, that the menorah could be lit by even a common person, even by a zar. The role of the Kohen with the menorah actually had to do with preparing the menorah, the candles, flames, to light them, but not the actual igniting the lights. So in the process of preparing, it was like this, right? The menorah burned from night till the next day. Then it had to be cleaned out from the old wicks and oil, from the vessels on top of each. And then you have to put in new wicks and oil. So the first part is right, hadashas, right, hamanera, cleaning out, and then to prepare the new for the new wicks and oil. That's hatavas hamanera. So these two parts only the Kohen could do, only Aaron or whoever. But to light, no. Light actually anyone could do. So it sounds almost contradictory to what we just said, that it's the Aaron is lighting, but no, if you think about it, it's actually making the point even more. First of all, like we were saying before with the story with the Bautreb saying, to prepare the person, to help the person to go get to the switch of the wall, that the person, the leader does, the Kohen does. That's the two parts of preparing the lighting the menorah. Again, to get rid of the bad, the burnt out parts. That's the sur meirah, getting rid of the negative. And then preparing the good part. Excuse me, the asay tov, the good, doing the good. But as we said before, a true leader is the one who empowers the person to light their own menorah. So in truth, yes, it's true that most times Aaron lit it, and especially the first time here, Aaron lit it, because it's beginning with the direction and the leader showing how to do it and so on. But ultimately, it is the people that are empowered to light themselves. So it's the leader is there to help prep the people to be the right vessels and be in that level to light themselves, because before that the people don't even have the ability to light themselves. But once they are with the assistance of true leadership, they find the power within, and then they could strike their inner match, right? Create the sparks and ignite from within and out. Okay. And not only that, it goes more. It's not that even that just we're lighting our own, but as it says in the verses here, also in the beginning of our parsha, that the menorah, and this is also brought down right at the very beginning in Shemais and Truma, where it discusses about making the menorah is to make from one piece of gold, not to be soldered together, but it was to be one piece to show that all 7 branches are interconnected, interdependent. And in fact, not only I as an individual person can light myself, but I could also help the other person by himself. That meaning that we all become mini leaders, not just of our own selves, of our own lives, but also of each other, right? Assisting each other and bringing out the best. So if like Mr. Chesed and Mrs. Gevura and whatever pronoun of Tiferet and go and on, we all are helping each other out and be able to light this singular menorah together. And this too also explains why Aaron it says that Vayas Kain Aaron, that Aaron did so, and Rashi says, in commentaries, that this teaches us that Aaron did not change the directions of how to light the menorah. Now, it's strange because there's many things that Aaron and Moshe too were instructed to do, which were even more complicated. And there isn't any great teaching that they were praised for not changing. Why here, exactly at the menorah, is Aaron told, oh, look how great you are, you didn't modify. Because again, this is the word. Because on a more superficial level, one would think a leadership means to do all the work for the people, to do the lighting too, to make sure everything is done correctly and it's properly. But really, on a deeper level, true leadership is to allow, just to help direct, guide the person, but not do it for the person. Even if the person may do it imperfectly at first, but let them figure it out too. That we help them to find their self-empowerment. And that was the greatness of Aaron. And we could also connect this too with the Mishnah we mentioned before of others that said to be from the students of Aaron, what does it mean, students of Aaron? Why doesn't it just say be like Aaron? Because earlier in this, just in the same chapter of Avot is the famous adage, the Hamidu Talmidim Harbe, to stand up, to have many students. Let me look up the Mishnah. So it's in the first chapter of Avos. Right, I'm just remembering. It's the very first one. Having Musunin Ladin, right? Be moderate, so to speak, in your judgment. And midu talmidim harbe, and set up many students. And make a guard there. So midu talmidim, what does it mean? Stand up many students. It means, certain people. There's certain like gurus, let's call them, or whoever, that they think the way to have followers is they're all bowing down. They're all like bent over to them. Yes, sir. Yes, master. No, yeah, whatever. Maybe yes, yeah, just following like lemmings. But not that they be standing upright and having their own full intelligence and be able to use their own talents and creativity, and be proud of themselves. Not right. The worst of leaders are those that they keep their students small. Don't, especially through negative reinforcement, right? Or manipulation, whatever it may be. So that's a big, unfortunately the people in certain cults or whatever you want to call them fell for it. Very intelligent and smart people too. So that's the idea of Hamidu Talmud, that the true student of way of having students is one those that can stand on their own feet, right? So that is a true student, disciple. So that's why later when we speak about Aaron, it says also to be like the students of Aaron, the same type of students of Hamidu Talmidim Harbe. the ones that can stand on their own. That is what Aaron was doing, making them stand, creating, again, people that could stand by themselves and do that. By the way, the word Aaron is the same letters as nira, as to be seen, or to shine, or also nira is like we will see. Like even in modern Hebrew, we say it's a state of revealing one's, being able to shine, bring out your true selves, and that is the true Aaron state. So now this is in, of course, no way. Again, we need both. We need both the Moshe type of leadership, the one who represents the highest spiritual level, to know certainly the highest level that we can be. Also to be the one that is the actual intermediary between the total inaccessible divine and us. And that's why believing in Moshe is part of the 13 principles of faith by Maimonides, by the Rambam. At the same time, we need the Aarons too. Those that could communicate with us on our levels too, and get us also going. And they're both needed. That's why throughout Chumash, already from the beginning of Shemais, it says who Moshe v'Aaron, who Aaron v'Moshe. It's used interchangeably. Both were needed. Right? Moshe also was the one who was Kavei Peh, couldn't speak. What does it mean he was Kavei Peh, couldn't speak? Meaning he was on too lofty of a level of being able to speak the language of the common person, the vox populi, so to speak. That's why Aaron needed to be also the transmitter, communicator. As we know, teaching Torah, it was from 4 levels. First, Moshe heard it from God. Then Moshe gave it over to Aaron first. Then Aaron, in Moshe's presence, gave it over to his children and the others, to the other Kohanim Levites. And then they gave it over to the elders, the Sanhedrin, the 70 elders of our parsha that were elected. And then they gave it to all the people. So Aaron was a necessary step in the 4-level transmission of Torah to the people. At the same time, it was, as the Rebbe would also say, Mekarvim Torah, he would bring the people close to Torah, not bend the Torah to the level of the people. That's another thing. That's another lesson. It wasn't that he brought the Torah to the people, but he brought the people to the Torah. Meaning, as much as yes, the best of leaders are the ones that communicate most direct to the people. At the same time, they keep the teachings pure. They're not watering it down. They're certainly not changing its meaning and what have you. So, and that takes great talent, that you keep it in its unadulterated state, teachings. Yet you're able to embody, find the right mode of communication that gives that essence in its pure state to the people on all the fronts. In fact, that's Torah is like that. It says not only that it has 70 faces, that's for every person. It almost has their own Torah. Torah Delehi, as it turned out, personal Torah. That just like we're all millions of people, there's also millions of mind state sets. Then the Torah itself is infinite, and therefore can be molded, can be fit in a unique, to use a metaphor, it's not like clothing off the rack, but every piece of Torah garment is tailor fit for exactly for our size, so to speak. Okay, and this leads to another point that on the menorah, and then maybe speak a little bit more on the parsha. And then I would like to cover at least some things on the Chassidus, because we didn't do it last week, okay? And that is, again, we're speaking tonight of different things about the Lubavitch Rebbe. again, because that's for whatever reason, that just by when I grew up, that's what I know more about. So before the Rebbe became the Rebbe, he was known to be a great scholar and have great insights, but he was very quiet and laconic. Very few people really knew how his great knowledge and teachings. Once in a while, he would talk Fabring and people that came out. But it took people for years to realize how really his great grasp. When he passed away in 1994, they found in his desk some notebooks of his writings, of what he wrote before he became Rebbe. And some of his most phenomenal teachings I've ever seen. And both in encyclopedia knowledge that Rebbe bringing from all different sources of Talmud and Midrash, of regular teaching, and also what's known as Nigla, like more pilpulistic Torah teaching, and also esoteric teachings. And also great deep insights, depth. So one of the longest entries or essays that he wrote in this collection of his what's known as Rishimis, we call it not notes, writing down, let's call it, is something called Rishimis HaMenorah. Is what he wrote about is the menorah, and it's its own mini book. Basically, it's in response to something that's brought down in Chassidus. Seems not to fit exactly the way it's brought down in Talmud, about how the Kohen prepared the menorah and lit the menorah. If you know how it worked, he would first prepare two of them and then get the light, the flame would come actually from the altar, from the outside, and use that fire to light the menorah. And itself is interesting why. And the Rebbe goes through all the Talmudic views, both on how the process of preparing the menorah and lighting the menorah, and also the position of the menorah. If the menorah was in the Heichal or in the Kodesh, if it was north to south, or if it was east to west. And in this long exposition, which is like 160 pages, with all different sources, blah blah blah. So just get to the point of like how he applies it on a human mystical or even like applied way, that what we can learn from. And he goes that everything that God created in the world is for a purpose. The purpose of everything human is ethnocentric in a way. Everything for the purpose of the human to serve God. So everything we see and everything, and this he writes in other entries in the Rishimis also, in very interesting ways. So he says also, you see this in all the phenomena of the world. Like Maimonides, in the beginning of Mishnah Torah, he writes that there's three things. It's all of regular creations of the world, which is matter in form, but it's in interchangeable form, therefore corruptible matter. Let's say a human being born and then ages and passes on. Even stones have geologic time that they change, yada yada. All right, so the forms are changing, and certainly mortal more. That's level one. Level two are what are known as the celestial spheres, which are also, in a way, matter with form, more abstract, maybe as not as tangible matter, and also it's in a consistent form that doesn't change, right? Cycles of the skies and the planetary rotations are more or less consistent, especially in the way they understood in medieval astronomy. Then there's the level of angels. Angels, which are also creations, but they are what Maimonides says are suris bilti chaimer, with forms without matter. Even though there's 10 levels of angels, Maimonides goes through what they are, but still they are the most abstract of creations. right? So too, we have in everything in the world that in the sense of what we relate to, that there, let's say time-wise, we have what we work as humans during the weekdays. That's and everything's interchangeable. We're corruptible, we're very in a mundane state. Then we have Shabbos, which Shabbos is already, we're on holy transcendent time, and we're not working and all that in the physical world that much, but we're still very involved in the physical world. We eat, it's actually a mitzvah to eat, drink, and celebrate it in the physical realm, but it's on a higher, holier, more immutable way. Then we have Yom Kippur, which is totally transcendent, no food to eat. We're like on the angel state. Okay. So too, the Rebbe says, if in the Mishkan and the temple, there was also 3 levels. There was the outside, the courtyard, or the azara of the Mishkan and Beis Hamikdash, which is where the animal sacrifices were brought, because that had to do with the physical world, all that. Then there was the chamber, the kodesh, or the heichal, right? Which was, that represents something already holy, but still more grounded in the world. That's where the menorah was, where the table, the breads, the incense sacrifice altar. Then you had the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Holy of Holies, which is where there was nothing, only the Aron and the Luchot, right? And the 2 tablets, 10 commandments. So again, this is the 3-level stage. Now, we too, if you imagine yourself, I've actually more than imagined, they have these days, and I've done this, they have these VR, virtual reality glasses where you could watch, and not just watch, experience, feel like you're walking through the Beit HaMikdash, through the temple. I think there's already 3 programs like this. I watched 2 of them. It's really amazing, tripped out. You're walking through the Azara and through this room and chamber and that chamber. And you go in where the high Kohen is lighting them, and you feel it. You're there. It's 3D. It's immersive experience. So too, just imagine you go walking east to west. Okay. So the more west you go, the more to the spiritual realm you go. From the courtyard, which is more the physical, to the intermediate, then to the Holy of Holies. Now, in that room of the Holies, or the Heichal, so what do you have? You have the incense. That is to take us from just dealing with the outer altar of pure physicality and elevating that to holiness. Now we need something that's more ethereal, ephemeral, something for our soul level. That is the inner. And then you have the shulchan, the table, that represents like the breads, like the physical breads, but still on a more spiritual level. Think of like the lechem mishnah, the 2 chalas for Shabbos, or matzah for Passover, right? So it's food, the physical world, but it's on a higher spiritual plane, but it's still physical. What is the menorah? Comes to the menorah, there's 2 ways to see. The menorah can either be represented as Torah, being the lit, like we say, ner mitzvah Torah or Torah is light, or it could represent the emotional, the inner emotional state of the person, like we were saying earlier, the 7th sphere of the person: love, awe, harmony, beauty, perseverance, and all the spheres on that emotion. So this too depends on these 2 opinions. If the menorah was north to south or east to west. Why? Because Torah, even if you have different levels, someone just can read on a basic level of Torah. Someone else is more knowledgeable, can study the deepest levels of Torah. Also may have to do with the person's IQ, what have you. But being that every aspect of Torah is God's Torah. And as we've said before, Torah itself is infinite. It just comes down to every person tailor-made for them. So that means that it's not like the 5-year-old who's learning Aleph Beis or the beginning of Chumash, Bereshit Bara, has less connection to Torah than the big Rosh Yeshiva who's learning the deepest Talmudic subjects, or the Kabbalist, the deepest esoteric. No, they both co-equally have direct access to the truth of Torah. Just because the Torah itself is beyond. And when we learn, use our minds, intelligence, and what have you, we are connecting with, we're even drawing it down to us, but at the same time, we are linked to something that's beyond us too. And what is that? That is the absolute truth of the teachings. And again, each one in their own level, but the Torah itself remains under, in its same truth value way. So that represents that Torah is the equalizer, almost. Regardless of what level of Torah you are. Whoever learns Torah is tapping into the source of divine mind and have direct connection. So as of that, we're that is so think about it in the menorah. If it's north, okay. Right. Okay, let me just say this thing. Whereas if our emotions, everyone has a different disposition of emotions. Everyone's heart, so to speak, is wired differently. Some people are more spoiled. All the different personality types we know people have, right? Some people are more extroverted, some people are more introverted, some people are more by nature kind. Again, some people are more tough by nature. And again, as represented by the 7th Sefirot on an emotional, even behavioral scale, spectrum, right? So that means that on the emotional levels and the 7 Sefirot levels, actually there is differences between people. Yes, it's all connected to Sefirot, but it's more the way it is as the person their self are, not just the way they're linked to something beyond them. Okay. So this also has to do with the position of the menorah. As we said, if the direction of getting holier is going from east to west, like if you're on the Temple Mount from the East Jerusalem looking westward to the west in Kotel Maravi, right? We're on the west side looking east, but imagine the entrance was actually on the east going west. You walk, so if that way, so if the menorah was straight north to south, that means that it's on this plane, they're all equal, right? Because it's not going higher and higher from east to west. It's both on the north-south axis. That means the emphasis that the menorah is representing Torah itself. If the menorah was positioned east to west, then that's emphasizing the emotional aspects of Torah of the menorah. That there are levels going from Malchut to Yesod all the way up to Chesed, which is the closest to the Holy of Holies, which is in the west. And again, Aaron represents the Chesed, that's the highest and lightest, and that's why he would like from there. Bring it, and would like the 6th and the 7th first, which those represent Yesod and Malchut, which also Yesod is binding, and Malchut is humility in a way, or humbleness, to bring out the greatest. right? So there's a rhyme and reason here. So both of these opinions have a validity. There's the Torah way to look at menorah as Torah is, that it's the equalizer of all levels, or the way to look at menorah as that each one has their unique expression of the light of the menorah, depending on their emotional disposition. Okay? And it's not to say one is better or right or wrong. It's that they're both manifested in the menorah, both the Torah, the way of Torah, and both the emotive behavioral way of my menorah. And I think, well, more than I think, maybe, and just trying to link everything with our parsha, and this also could explain something that is in our parsha, which is what? There's something we spoke about already a few weeks ago when it had to do with our the calendar, which is Pesach Sheni, the second Pesach, right? Which is the famous story. The second year it came to that they were in the desert to bring the sacrifice, the Pesach sacrifice, and I'm sorry, yeah. And let's just find it here. That the peoples, that those that were, that those that weren't able to bring the sacrifice, the paschal sacrifice for this Pesach, because they were impure or foreign. And the truth is, it wasn't that they were doing the wrong thing, that they were impure. Actually, according to commentaries, I think we mentioned this a few weeks ago, they were actually the ones that were carrying the bones of Yosef, or they were actually, it was their role to do holy work, like the Chevra Kadisha that we have now, the Holy Society that deal with the dead, which is very holy work. And they're even exempt from bringing in the sacrifice. But still, they came to God, to Moshe, and said, why should we lose out? We want to also bring the Paschal lamb sacrifice. And what does Moshe say? Moshe doesn't know what to do. So if you can see on your screen, right? They said, Lama nigara, why should we lose a bit? So Moshe told them, Imdu ve'eshma, stand, and I will hear Ma'itzav Hashem lachem, what God instructs you to do. Meaning, Moshe says, guys, stand here, wait a bit. I'm going to go ask God. I'll come back and tell you what God says to do. And then Moshe goes, speaks to God, and God tells him, yes, these people, even though they're impure, far away, they can still bring the Paschal sacrifice 1 month later, on the 14th of Iyar, right? And hence this is the Pesach Sheni that we remember every year by eating matzah, the 14th of the year, a month after Pesach. So note here again, Moshe says, what imdu, stand, and I will listen to what Hashem is telling me. So again, if you remember what we said before about standing earlier, about making things, Dena, okay, Laila Tov to you too. If you stick around a little bit more, I won't complain. If you gotta go, I understand. Of course. Shad b'cheir, as we say. But you can stay as long as you want, of course. After hours, yeah. Okay. Right? And so actually, this is a beautiful thing also, that Moshe is maybe also beginning this level of empowering the people. In a way, they are empowering themselves, even though they weren't even being told from any leader from above what to do and how to do. They're standing up for their own rights. So sounds like any good human rights movement, right? Why should we miss out? Why should we lose out? We also want to do it, right? All lives matter, so to speak. And that is what happens. So, but it's interesting that Moshe tells him, yes, stand and I will tell you. And this also goes into a cool story with the Baal Shem Tov. Like we always love to bring not only teachings, but like a niggin, which we did a little bit earlier, and also when we can to sneak in a story or two. So here's a beautiful short story with Baal Shem Tov that will make the point that that even though people are different than their leaders, but still we all need each other. And in a way, we all, right? Like we were saying earlier, that the people, even though Moshe was the head, he still needed the people who were the feet. And also this idea of inventory of standing, all right? So the story goes that the Baal Shem Tov, when he would, it's brought down, if you read in the Shivchei Baal Shem Tov, the praises of Baal Shem Tov in other places, that he would like, his davening was like the highest of the high. The description of how he would shake forward and backward and all that. There are times once they asked about Shem Tov, why does he shake so much and gesticulate so much? Which was actually one of the complaints the Misnagdim had against the Chasidim. When hopefully we'll get to that area of now a subject of Chasidim versus Misnagdim. This is also something that's brought down in even in the complaints against the Alter Rebbe about the first Chabad Rebbe when he was arrested. What's all this shaking or shuckling? Yes, it's true. It says that at Mount Sinai that the people also shook, trembled. Still, it says once that there was someone, a young person who grew up in a Jewish household. I think it was in a Rebbe's household. And he knew that he learned how to all the Hebrew, daven, he even looked like a Jew. And they once tested, and they brought like a Jewish kid and this non-Jewish kid, and they were both praying, saying the blessings and praying. And then they asked some visiting chassid, maybe another Rebbe or another kid, like the Rebbe's kid, can you tell who's the Jew or not the Jew? And the Rebbe's child said yes. Even though the Gentile said the prayers just like the Jewish people. How did he know? He said, the non-Jewish one wasn't shuckling. He wasn't shaking. Only a Yid shuckles, shakes. I don't know if you know this, but Satchmo, what was his name? Not Duke Ellington, Neil Armstrong, right? Famous jazz musician, trumpeter.
Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong, right. Sorry.
Neil Armstrong.
Neil, of course, went to the moon, of course. Right. Thank you. I think he grew up I think it was in the Baltimore area. And when he was younger, he lived, I think it was around the shuls. And he would peek in and sneak, and he saw the way the Jews were davening and shaking, shuckling. And he would call it the Jewish sway. And some say the whole idea of swing and sway is like from Louis Armstrong getting that Jewish vibe of prayer, of davening, shuckling away. So they asked once the Baal Shem Tov, like, what is this all this shaking? Because the Misnagdim were very into daven, praying, very, not without motion. So Baal Shem Tov, one of the answers, there's two answers Baal Shem Tov gave. One answer the Baal Shem Tov gave is to the Misnagdim who asked him why he shakes so. He says, imagine that there's a great wedding celebration piece, and there's the best band in the world playing away, and everyone's dancing and rocking in the house, right, and swaying, dancing, jumping. In walks in a deaf person who can't hear the music. He looks around and sees all these people moving around like idiots, making all these weird body motions. And he just doesn't get it. What is going on? Right? He's just not on the same level. Basically, he doesn't hear the music. That was about Sheb's one answer to this. It's not. He's lying, like, you don't hear the music, sir. The other answer he gave was that it's probably at another occasion. He said that someone is drowning in the sea, He's about to drown. He goes and gesticulates. He's shaking his hands and feet to gasp for to save his life. Are you going to ask him why, sir? Why are you shaking and all that? Of course, he's there. He's saving his life, implying that when we pray, we're on that level of total, like we're trying to save our souls, our life. So of course, the body is shaking. Be on that level. So shows you how the Baal Shem Tov understood. And like it said, we say even in prayer, in the Shabbos, in Nishma Kolchai, Kol Atzmai Setemarna. All my body lives, praise to God, and goes through all the different things, right? Akein Evarim Shepilak the Banu. Okay. Evarim Shepilak the Banu. Beruach Neshama. שנפחת ביפינו, אלא שי, אשר שמת בפינו, איי 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 איי, יאיתו ויברכו וישבחו, ויפוארו וירוממו, יריצו ויקישו וימיכו ושמחון על קרינו. All our body limbs praise and daven to Hashem. Even your inner, even your kishkis, and your kidneys, everything's davening, is moving in a total, right? It's as we call it, embodied prayer, embodied Judaism. That's the whole point. And that's one of the great things that Chassidus emphasized. Be in your bodies, use your bodies, avodah begashmis, use the physical world, be aware. And that our bodies are the vehicle to channel to the soul and to the highest realms. So back to our story. So the Baal Shem Tov was davening and getting to the high level. So he would daven not only physically so much, but also he would daven long, arichas atfilah, length and long. Be in the shtibel. Whoever was in Mezhebush, it's still there. Actually, it was destroyed, I think, in the war. They rebuilt it. It's almost exact replica. Mezhebush, Baal Shem Tov's clays, for sure. And he would daven there for hours upon hours. Now, so the people, regular people, wouldn't stick around. Yeah, even his Chasidim, they knew that Rebbe's going to be davening Shachris for like 6 hours. So after 2 hours, whatever, they went home. They ate breakfast or lunch, whatever, and then they came back to be with the Rebbe again. Now, his inner circle of students, they would stick it out longer. Of course, they usually wouldn't leave. They would stay around and to be there the whole time. But there was once a time that Baal Shem Tov was going extra long. And really, even the inner circle felt that they couldn't stay around the whole time. So they snuck out of shul and went, and they knew that Baal Shem Tov was going to take him another 2-3 hours. They knew they could go home for a half hour and come back, right? They go, do whatever they need to eat, whatever, come back. And they see the Baal Shem Tov's finished davening. He's already packing up his talis and tefillah. And they were surprised. So the way his students, he had a very open communication. Baal Shem Tov with students, colleagues, and they would ask him whenever they saw his behavior like different, even on Beshtian terms levels. So they went to Baal Shem Tov. They said, Rebbe, usually you daven so much longer. Like, why suddenly today did you shorten your davening and we come back and you're finished? So Baal Shem Tov said, I'll give you a parable. A mashal said once there was a group of people out in the fields, the forest. Now one had a better eye vision, or he was like the bird watcher of the group. Had a very keen eye, he could see around. And he noticed on top of a tall tree that there's this really beautiful exotic bird. And he wanted to get it, right? But the other people didn't notice it. They didn't know about it. And they couldn't really find it. So he said, he didn't, regardless, he said, he told the people that, his team, his group that was there, you know what? We don't have a ladder or anything. So you go shoulder upon shoulder, stand on each other's shoulders. Now I'll go on the top, right? And I will go and be able to get the bird and get this beautiful bird. So it was, and that's how he got the bird. Now, how did this person get the bird? It was even though all the people underneath him didn't know couldn't even see the bird, didn't know anything about the beauty of the greatness of this bird, or didn't even see it. But that wasn't the point. He needed to climb upon them to get to that high level to get. Now, what would happen if someone on the bottom of this whole, people on the shoulders, if someone just said, I don't see anything, and just left? So the whole thing with the whole human ladder would topple, including the person on top. You wouldn't be able to get. So Baal Shem Tov said, same thing with me. Guys, I see the bird. It's known that the chamber of Mashiach is known the chamber of the nest of the bird, right? The bird of Khan Sipper. We know Mashiach is viewed as the Kol HaTayr, the sound of the turtle dove. That Mashiach was one of the metaphors. Mashiach is like a bird. It says, when I pray, I go up to the chamber of Mashiach. I see the bird, even though you guys don't. But still, in order to get up there, I need to stand on you guys' shoulders. And so, as long as you guys are here in shul, I could climb on top and get there. But once you guys left the shul, and I was all alone davening, couldn't reach it. I'm just like as much as I can know the greatness of this, I couldn't reach it. That's why I'm down there. That's a great lesson. Again, that regardless of our level, we each have our part to play. And then again, that even the head, as we've seen before, also needs the feet of the people for the head to rise. And that again, to loop it back, that is what's going on with our Parsha Ba'alaisa to elevate versus last week Parsha Nasa. And like Jonathan stupidly pointed out, the Nasa Reish is just the leader of being a floating head, just going up by himself. And Nasa, or even just standing on top of the people. But higher is like our Parsha with Aaron Ba'alaisa Sanayirish, that even the people themselves, their candles are also elevated. And it's what kind of elevate? Aliyah. It's Aliyah is like you say, that the descent is for a greater ascent than even was before the original high point. That we get even higher. Okay, that's the idea, that when we light the minyan, we're achieving even higher levels. And that's it's interesting that we talk about, like when someone passes away, we say, oh, the neshama, the soul should have an aliyah. Now it's true that there are levels to the soul to get higher and higher, even when it passes on, leaves the parts of the body. And let's say a yard site, we say, or just after 30 days it passes, first yard, other yards, each time the levels, the neshama is having a higher aliyah, elevation. But in a certain way, greater than an aliyah of a person after passing on is the aliyah of the soul when we're still in bodies. That's the real. I'm going to say that's the real chiddush. Let's call it the real unique, the real way of aliyah. The soul going up is of course that's the nature of a soul to go up. There's a term, I think it's a mishlei, that the spirit of the human is to go up, whereas the spirit of the animal is to be bogged down. So that's the chiddush. Even though when we're in physical bodies, we're bogged down, to still elevate and go up higher to the highest realms. So that too is also, this is the idea that we're getting back to Pesach Sheni, that Moshe said, you stand and I will hear. it's almost like Moshe is telling the people who wanted to bring Bezashem, you stand on that human ladder, and I will get up on top of you to reach God, so to speak, to hear what he has to say. Okay? All right. So I think we did enough of the Parsha. There's more there to go too, but it's enough of that. Just checking in. Are we up to doing at least, or let's call it something like even abbreviated on the Chassidus that we were doing from the Toldot Yaakov Yosef? I saw like some people were down to two of us here, other than me.
I'm going to cancel that we wait till next week for it.
Mean you cancel? Mean comma?
Counsel.
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 Okay, great. Okay, you counsel that, and Steve, I assume so. Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Even though I do feel I really don't like to skip more than 1 week, but it has happened on some occasions that we did push it off for 2 weeks, even reluctantly. So I would do so. I would say at the same time that I would just add, in which case I will add 5 more minutes just because I wanted to read it is just, I could go both ways. What, honestly, let me ask you, would you want 5 more minutes of like Parsha stuff or the Haftarah stuff? Or does it feel like we're at a good conclusion?
It seems like we're at a I don't know. Lately, the term has become popular. Inflection point.
Inflection point. Good. Let me ask.
But here's the thing. I've noticed that all the other people from New York have dropped off, and I'm guessing that there's sort of a general level of exhaustion on the part of those of us in the New York area.
Got it. Okay. Good. And I'm not hearing.
In addition to yourself, whom I'm very concerned about.
Okay, good. And just one last, just to hear if Steve is nearby and does want to pipe in.
I'm good, but I'm going to agree with Jonathan.
Okay. Good. Okay, great. That's it. Okay. So we'll just sing. I will sing one last thing of our parsha. The tune out is because it is because we end off with the prayer of Moshe to God to heal Miriam from the leprosy, which is the famous Kelna Nifanala, right? And I'm sorry, Rachel Markel is not on because we got to get, like we were singing at the end of Shabbos, and she has a beautiful song, her own song, with the words Kelna Nifanala.
I think she was on very briefly, wasn't she?
Yeah, well, it was, briefly. I'm just like, if she's following on Facebook, I'm giving her the cue to come back on if she's available to sing, to close off with her song. If not, I'll just do, there's 2 songs that I know. There's actually a third one, but I'm not going to sing it now. One is the famous chant. We've done this multiple times. It's Kel Narifanala, Kel Narifanala, Kel Narifanala, Kel Narifanala, Kel Narifanala, Kel Narifanala. Kelna Nifanala, Kelna Nifanala, Kelna Nifanala, Kelna Nifanala. So there's that, and then there's one more. This is by Baruch Levine, I think. Vino Malkein Shelach Refuah Sheleim Refuah Sanefesh Refuah Saguf Refuah Yamecho Aminu, Aminu Malkeinu, Shelach B'Fuah Shelayimam, B'Fuah Sanefesh, B'Fuah Saguf, B'Chayim B'Chayim B'Chayim, Ken, Shema, Shema, Yehovah Shemayim, Yehovah Shemayim, L'chayim Yehovah, Shema, Shema, Yehovah Shemayim, Yehovah Shemayim, so healing for all those that need healing, and just this is what we're going through in the Northeast is for us to appreciate all the more our breath, breathing our breath, and may again transforming. May only breathe in good, and breathe out whatever needs to be released. So great night. iPhone, you weren't on earlier, and we took consensus. We were going to, I was checking in if we should do the Chassidus versus Misnagdim continue, but it seems like consensus, especially due to the weather and such, to cut it short this week, relatively shorter, and we'll pick up on the Chassidus versus Misnagdim part next week. So I apologize if iPhone, you did want to go into that tonight. I'll just give you a sneak preview. Hopefully next week we will continue not only on about how to deal with alien thoughts from the Hasidic perspective, but specifically that three-part way, V'achna'a, Havdalah, Hamtaka, that we've been speaking about, and different Torahs from the Toldus Yaakov Yosef that give more perspectives to it. And certain other related parts to it, and then and we'll continue on our great saga of Hasidic teachings in that way. Okay, so hopefully those, especially those that are interested in that subject of the not just the history of the actual facts of the arguments between Chasidim and Misnagdim, but the teachings that led to the different views. I personally find it more interesting than more of the teachings that from the sperm, the inner things, the ideas of the Chasidim, like they call it, not just the history of the facts, but the history of the ideas. So, right, and that's what we're focusing on lately. Okay, so tune in next week again, same time. And if we do want to continue anyway, honestly, I am feeling the outdoor stuff coming indoor here, and I'm feeling that what Jonathan said to cut it briefly is the right call. So therefore we'll tune out. And again, iPhone, you know how to reach me. Right, very very true. Okay. So good Shabbos, Jonathan, good Shabbos, iPhone, good Shabbos, Steve, Zusha, Abba, good Shabbos, Dana, good Shabbos, Dani, good Shabbos, Rachel, good Shabbos. Who else was on for a good part of the time?
I think Ellie came in briefly.
Shabbos, Ellie, good Shabbos, and good Shabbos, everyone out on Facebook land, good Shabbos to my family, good Shabbos to the whole wide world, and including myself, good Shabbos. Remember, Lord, get me high, get me high, get me high. Lord, get me high, get me higher. Higher and higher, higher and higher, higher and higher and higher. But always remember, as high as you get, to always keep your feet on the ground. Never float away, never leave your body being grounded in this world. Yes, iPhone, very quickly before.
Yes, I was just wondering, want to take a survey. Does anyone remember anything like this in their lifetime?
Well, the answer, you mean what's going on outside?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have experience personally. I'm living in Northern California. I know the patterns in a way. I've been through this multiple times. But here out east, they say at least that this has not been, the air quality index has not been this high since the 60s, if not earlier. And even in the 60s, I don't think it was because of fire. I think it was just because of pollution. But from fire, I don't think it's ever really been like this in a very long time.
We did have some smoke coming over, I think it was 2 years ago now, from the wildfires in California and Colorado.
Right, but that was
nothing this serious.
Right, and that was cross country, and and over the Rockies, and it dissipated a lot since then. This is closer and this is heavier. Yes,
right. Other than that, there was what they called, I think it was in 1968, around Thanksgiving time, what they called a temperature inversion, where all the pollution just hung over New York City for like a week, and it was really difficult time. But that was pollution, and that was before all the EPA stuff, and that not only weren't they measuring anything, they weren't even keeping track of anything.
Right. So maybe that's what in the media is referring to, that it hasn't been like this since the 60s, harkening back to them. Yeah. But from this, yeah. Look, it also reminds us that borders of countries are human-made, and like nature doesn't know. Canada is separate from the United States. So
yeah. Okay, build a wall.
build something in the sky. Where are all those Chinese air balloons? So we need them, right?
What do you think started this whole thing?
Oh. Right.
Secret conspiracy theorist over here.
You're right. And honestly, it's not even the height of the summer, and there's already all these fires. Yeah. And it's not even one fire major. It's like 140, 150 fires together. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm reading
running around going, sorry.
Crazy hotline. A crazy headline that reads that breathing into your point from the Daily Mail. Breathing in the smog is like smoking 22 cigarettes. This is just the headline. I don't know exactly
it depends. Yeah, true that. Please let's not. Please don't freak me out too much.
I heard a similar statistic earlier today.
Now I want to wear the N95 even indoors. Honestly. All right.
I was going to I wound up not, but I was going to wear an N95 indoors today.
I'm telling you, like the last even half hour or something, for some reason, I'm sent. I don't know if I'm making it up, but I'm a little bit feeling it.
You've been talking for the last 3 hours.
That's a good point. Okay. Voila. No more. Okay.
Your lungs are working overtime.
All right. Okay. That's it. Okay. Thank you. Jonathan, really, really thank you for being so alert and aware, and just making sure that health first, as we say. At Rosh Hashiva, we say, Bereshis bara. The first thing is bara, to be bari, to be healthy. Okay. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.